I know there are a few people who want to watch the recording, so welcome if you're watching the replay. So one of my favorite things to do, you guys, is get the amazing experts that I've worked with in here to help my amazing audience of authors, fellow authors and speakers and entrepreneurs. And Melissa Henry and I met at the, let me see if I get this right, it's the Virginia Women's Business Conference. And it was last year when we were all gathering. We had this great conference and it really was a wonderful event. And Melissa and I sat at that table together and became fast and furious friends. And I hired her to do a branding session. And I knew about this much truly about like what real branding is. And I had such an incredible experience the day that she came to my house and did the photo shoot. But what I received was so much more than just that session. She really planned with me and gave me a little bit of homework to do. We talked beforehand a couple or, I don't know, 2 or 3 times. Had me do like a questionnaire thing, and we really co-created the session. And so by the time that she got here, and her makeup and hair goddess got here too, because I had all of that going on. And then she comes with her assistant and the camera, and it was amazing. But it wasn't just fun, like rock star fun. It was somebody finally gets how I want to put myself out there fun. Someone finally understands how I want to put myself out visually and can help me with the ideas and just the back and forth, the brainstorming of it. And then all of that aside, actually deliver pictures that did that. Like, you know, you guys, this takes skill. And so it's why Melissa is here today. Okay. So without further ado, I hope that introduction did you justice, Melissa. I'm going to let her
more than that
herself. So tell the ladies a little bit more about what you do.
Oh, okay. Well, Melissa Henry, as she said, the name of my company is Melissa Demple Photography. I actually started off doing newborn and maternity photography about 10, 11 years ago. And always kind of did that on the side, having that full-time job for quite some time. And then about about 2.5 years ago, I decided that, enough is enough. I've got to get out of that crazy 9 to 5. Actually, it was more like 9 to 3 a.m. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And right about that same time, I really kind of pivoted to doing brand photography. It was something that I had actually done when I first got out of photography school, but it wasn't needed at that time. People didn't really use social media for their businesses and that sort of thing. But I sort of realized, I kind of came all the way full circle to, wait a minute, it makes total sense to me to go out and actually capture the stories of people. And that's really what it is. It's all about storytelling. And I know that Laura knows like so much about this. You guys know about this. Telling the story of someone, it's not just your business and what you provide, but it's who you are, because people are going to buy from you, not from a logo. And so that's kind of the approach that I always take. And so it's really kind of getting to know. I mean, there's no way for me to just show up at your house and photograph you and get it right unless we kind of develop that relationship beforehand. So that's kind of what I do. And as Laura said, it all kind of starts with a questionnaire, which everybody's like, questionnaire. But really, the questionnaire is kind of like, a lot of people have said to me, that's really cool, because now you've really got me focused. And then it's all about having the planning call that you and I had, where we really got to get into some of those deeper issues. We're talking about what's the emotion that your ideal client feels before they work with you. What is it? What do they feel after? What's the transformation you want to have for them? What about you really connects with your ideal client? We're going to go into some of this stuff today, but we walk through all of those things and you start to get these great brainstorm ideas and it becomes fun. It's all about like, oh my gosh, Laura, you and I, we were like, well, you need to be up on stage because you're the badass poet, right? And so we went and we found a stage for you and we got you up there and we had people watching in the audience. They were eating, but it looks like they were watching. And and we had you kind of up there just really being who you were. And here's the fun part. You don't pose. You actually do the thing that you do. And that's where all the natural sort of emotion and expressions and all that stuff that really truly connects, that's where it happens. So I think that's what I feel that's what makes me different, because I do see a lot of imagery out there on social media, and much of it, to me, some of it's really good. Some of it is what I call just sort of show up and shoot kind of stuff. So you kind of, I feel like you have to kind of take a look more deeply than just I'm taking a photograph with my cell phone, if you know what I mean. So I don't know if that was really where you're going with it, but that's kind of, how I feel about it.
You are good. And actually, I'm going to totally put you on the spot. I did not tell you I was going to do this.
Oh.
But I like to run my sessions and my webinars and my guest expert interviews by having the ladies understand what your offer is right up front.
Okay.
And because my audience is global and not all these ladies live in Maryland, they need to understand like what this is that you have created. So would you please do that first today and let them know what's up? Great.
Yeah. No. So, I think with all of us, COVID kind of had us like take a real hard look at what we needed to do for our businesses. So, after like what I call throwing spaghetti against the wall a few times, I kind of said, wait a minute, ask your ideal client what they want. So I did. And what I kind of came up with is, I know a lot of people are really uncertain about how their brand looks across their website and social media and whether it's really working. Like, is it really attracting the people that you want? And so what I did was create what I call the personal brand appraisal. It's not a sexy name, but it gets the point across, I think. And so what I'm doing there is I'm actually doing a deep dive into your website or your social media. And I'm coming back with a report. It's like an audit, but I'm going to call it an appraisal. That's a nicer name. And I'm actually looking at, the website, how it appears. I'm putting the hat of your ideal client on, and I'm looking at how that appears to your ideal client. Are you hooking them with that tagline at the beginning? Do you have images on your site and across your social media that actually represent your brand? And we do that in a very similar way that I approach my photography sessions. So it does start with a questionnaire. There are some different questions on this one as well than there would be for a photo shoot, but essentially it gets me a really good idea about like who you're trying to attract. And then I start looking at all of those components. And then I come back to you and we actually have a call, much like I would a planning session, but in this case, it's going over the findings and suggestions that I have. So during that part of it, I'm going to tell you all the things I think are working, some things that I think that you can do to actually immediately implement some changes, and get you really excited for maybe creating some of your own images, or maybe even taking that next step to hiring a photographer locally to you. So that's the offer. Right now I am launching it for $397, but for anyone on this call, I'm going to give you $50 off if you book a call by September 1st. So that's just a call for us to get to know each other and decide whether it's something you want to do. And so if you then move forward and you say, yes, I want to take this step and I really want to figure this out, then you'd get the special deal for being Laura's clients.
Okay, gals, so now you know, and we can get on with the teaching today. And while Melissa gets her all of her information into the chat for you,
yes.
I'm actually going to share screen and show you a couple of the pictures that you guys have seen. Some of these that Melissa has done for me. Can you guys see those photos there? My globe photo. She's like, we need a globe. You're like global. You talk about changing the world. I'm like, oh my God, Amazon, what is the cheapest globe I can find? But that was actually the hardest part of the homework, was like getting that globe delivered. So there it is. We did a photo with the On Purpose women one day at a meeting, which was cool. I don't think you guys have seen this up anywhere. That's the podcasting one, just me sitting at my desk. And Melissa, you tell me when you've got your stuff in the chat, because I can't see it. And these were all just centered around the podcast, just having some new images to use. You guys will notice that I did a couple of like shirt changes. There was like a whole wardrobe thing going on that day. And then the writing, so that's kind of fun, right? We did a bunch, and we did them this way with me writing and me smiling. And this is probably my favorite headshot. This one and this one you guys see everywhere. They're my favorite shots that she did of me. Thought about getting those books together and just showing people. And I have a lot of fun when I meditate, you guys. So there I am. And again, probably one of my favorite pictures is me with the books. So like thinking about how you want to put yourself out there. It's just been so much fun to have great photos. Thanks for the info, Melissa. And I'm going to let you run with it now.
All right. Give me a sec and I will share my screen.
Let me make you a co-host. Hang on.
Yeah.
I got to make you a co-host to be able to do that.
Okay.
Okay, I think you can now.
All right, let's go ahead and share screen. All right, you guys see it? All right, let's go. There we go. Okay, that's me running. I have my own brand photos taken, so I can't do this stuff on my own. So I always, kind of try and walk the walk whenever I'm telling people about what they should do with their brand. And so let's see. Oh, why is this not going? There we go. This is a phrase that I've used before. You're not going to selfie your way out of this one. Where selfies have their time and their place. I do think they are important for kind of filling in the gaps and actually doing some sort of real time conceptual things and really showing your face. But what we're going to talk to you about today is going to help you kind of get some real confidence around creating some of your own images, and maybe even going to a brand photographer kind of gets you ready for that. So what we're going to go through, I'm going to try to do this sort of fast because I have a lot of information to tell you. And I do want to kind of keep on time. So what we're going to talk about is some brand basics. And some of you probably already know these, but you may not have actually gone into deeper detail with them. So I'm going to give you that opportunity. We're going to talk about what's working and what's not on your website and social media. We're going to figure out some stories and themes for your brand. And we're going to try and turn those stories into themes and images that connect with your ideal client. So, do you know the one problem that you solve for your client? I think a lot of people think that they know that, or they've thought about it, sure. But if you've never spent that much effort on figuring it out, and I mean the one overarching problem, and maybe even dialing it down to one word, I think it's really important to do this, because when you're thinking about your brand, if you have sentences and reams of information about how you solve problems for your clients, that doesn't help you really figure out exactly how to message them. So even if you think you have this on lockdown, I'm going to ask you to listen a little bit closely here, because I know that there's been entrepreneurs that I've talked to that had some pretty aha moments when we went through this. So what you're going to do here, it's an exercise that I have people do, and you can grab a notebook and a pen. You'll be able to do this on your own. I'm just kind of walking you through, what the exercise is. And so a lot of times when we talk about the problem you solve, people think about a solution. And that's how you solve the problem. It isn't the problem. So, what you can do if you're not 100% sure, or if you'd really just like to do this as an exercise to figure out whether you're on point, create a list of words. This is brainstorming. Throw a bunch of words down on a piece of paper describing the pain points that your ideal client has. And then make another list. And this list is really kind of the opposite or opposing thing. So, if you think about your ideal client, what wins do they really want in their business? And so what you're going to do there is figure out the wins, but then take those wins and figure out what obstacles are in their way, because that can get you around like thinking about what it is that they're really having, the problems they're having in their business. Once you have those two lists together, go ahead and circle what you think are the top pain points from list 1 and the top obstacles from list 2. Sometimes they will actually agree, and then you'll be like, wow, I really have got it. But sometimes they won't. And sometimes it's important to find better words, because you may have some words that you've written down and you start looking in a thesaurus and you're like, oh my God, this is even better. This totally makes sense to me. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an example from my experience with doing it for myself. Um, I realized after going through this whole exercise that I obviously have several different ways I can work with my clients, but the one overarching problem I solve, and this is across the board, no matter what solution I have, is that I solve the problem of obscurity. Okay. So my clients, they want to get those coveted keynote spots. They want to build their email list. They want to scale their business. They want to make more money. They need to be more visible to do these things, right? So it's obscurity is the thing here for me. That took me a while. Okay. So it's like one word. Wow. Like, what's the big deal there? It should take you no time. Well, this one took me a while, and I had to go to a thesaurus and really think about it. So, all right. So, not to belabor this one, but the next tip, and I told you I'd be fast, but please ask me questions at the end, put them in the chat, whatever, and we'll go through at the end. The second tip that I want you to know is that you really need to get to know your target audience, your ICA, your ideal client, whatever you want to call them. You need to know the demographics and the psychographics. And this is, if you're not really sure what that is, I know most people do kind of know what demographics is, but they might get stuck on the second part of that. But the demographics really help you figure out what's going on in your ideal client's mind. So what you do in this situation is you identify as many of those demographic details as you possibly can, and getting very specific. Listen, what are they, a mother, a father, are they a business owner? Where do they live? How much do they make? What do they do? What industry? How old are they? Do they have a college education or not? Like, all of these things are very important to first get down, because then you're going to start looking at psychographics. Psychographics are how you get into their mind. So you have to know who you're talking to in order to get into their mind, right? So at this point, that's when you're going to start to look at the psychographics. And just to give you some ideas of what those are, so you can write this stuff down. What in life do they care about most? What are their wants and needs? What keeps them up at night? What are they passionate about? What are they really searching for? Sometimes it's something, but then it's really something deeper than that, isn't it? What's held them back up until this point? And what deep emotions are they feeling because they haven't taken any action yet? So those are the kinds of things that you're going to get down. And that's really where the meat of all of this stuff is in those emotions and those nitty gritty, deep feelings and thoughts. Okay. So when you have that down, I feel like I'm just flying through this, by the way, but hopefully I'm going slow enough for you to take notes and fast enough for us to get through this. But this is where sort of the fun comes in. Okay. So this is what makes you unique. Okay. And I think that this is fun and I think Laura thinks this is fun because we had a lot of fun with this when we went through it. But this is where you can kind of, again, bring that word cloud or that brainstorming exercise in. because you're going to want to describe yourself and your brand. And I did say yourself because you are the face of your business. So your personality, your life, the things that you do, you infuse that into your business. And it is what makes your business unique. So when you're thinking about this, I want you to think about adjectives that describe the way you provide your service, or something. Maybe it could even be like, I don't know, something like the way that you look. I know somebody who she does rainbow hair all the time. And she wants that to be part of her brand. And she believes that it makes her kooky and fun and different and all of that. So it could be something related to that. And sometimes it's really more about your why. Like, why did you start this business in the first place? That can be part of your uniqueness. So make sure that you identify that. I feel like that's like the biggest part of all of this. The second thing that I would look at is your aesthetic. Are you edgy? Are you soft and sweet? Are you modern and really simple, like clean lines, that sort of thing? You need to know that. That's going to translate directly into a lot of things in your brand, including the way that you show up. So that's a really important one. I think next too is really looking at the emotions that your brand should convey. Is it joy? Is it excitement? Is it calmness? Like, what is it that you specifically need to tell your ideal client that they should book with you because, right? um, and this is real closely related, but the transformations that you want your clients to have, that's another area. Do you want them to be confident? Do you want them to be excited about the next steps that they're going to take in their life? Energetic, healthy? Like, what are the things that you want to convey to them or provide for them once they work with you? The last piece here are the payoffs. Again, kind of closely related, but I sort of think of payoffs as being the ultimate for your clients. So you might give them a part of the process, but ultimately they want the big thing. What's their ultimate goal in life, right? So what you do actually paves the way for those payoffs. So I think writing those things down. So it could be wealth, prominence, authority, the 7-figure business, whatever it is, that's the ultimate. Write those things down. And we are going to get into why this all makes sense later, but this is yet another part of it. So let's go on to the next here. This part is really closely related to the service that I'm providing now with people in terms of looking to see if their brand is working. If you know all of the things that we just discussed, if you've written all of those things down, then you're gonna start to be looking at your social media. You're gonna start to be looking at your website and wondering, okay, wait a minute, am I really conveying those things that I said my brand really stands for? So part of what I do, I kind of said this at the beginning, but this is something that you can do too. You want to take a look at your website and take a look at it with your ideal client's hat on, okay? You need to be able to see the minute that you go to your website, it should be evident that the problem that you solve for your clients, it should be front and center. I mean, it could be a tagline, it could be the image that you use or a video that you use at the top in your hero image space. But it really is about, like, am I getting this across the minute that someone gets there? Because people don't spend very much time on a website, so they got to know it right up front. Does your theme and the images and the content and all of that stuff on your site, does it really resonate with what you say your brand is? All of those adjectives that we just wrote down. Do you have photos of you on your site? I know I've said this before, but like, you are the face of your business. So you need to be showing yourself. And if there's no photos on your website, I remember one time I went to this guy's website. I only know he's a guy because I found his name. And I was pretty sure that was a guy's name, but there was 0 photos on his website. None of him, none of anybody. And then I started thinking, well, what are you hiding? I don't want to do business with someone that I don't even get to see first. So I think it's even more important now when we're not even meeting each other in person. So think about that. What photos are you using on your website of you? The last couple of points here, this is just like a few points that I look at here, but I thought these were some of the main things. Do you look different from your competitors? If you've got competition in your industry, let's make sure that your website doesn't look like theirs. It really has to be about you and your brand. And then another thing I want to touch on here, and I know it's hard, but I know a lot of entrepreneurs that use stock. And here's the thing about stock. It's not branded to you. So it's not going to look like what you can maybe get close on a few, but it's not going to look like you. And so many people are using that same image. Part of what I do is actually look at images and go search those images on the internet for people and show them how many sites are actually using the same exact image that they are. And in many cases, I actually found one where there was some people like sexual sites using using this one image that this one lady was like, no, that's not what I meant that image to be. So right. So you just have to be careful with it. Then you can take a look at your social media. And these are sort of some basic things that I would look at. You want to look to make sure that the posts that you're using with images, whenever you use an image on a post, excuse me for a minute, you want to make sure that they do reflect your brand description as well. So if you are an energetic person, showing images of being very calm and peaceful might not exactly represent what you're doing. So just think about that when you're thinking about concept images to use with any post that you put on social media. Look across all of your platforms. Are your banner images consistent? I actually have to update my own personal Facebook profile for this. I've kind of left that off, but I'm going to do that too. But if you look across all of that, can someone who sees you on Facebook and then finds you on Instagram know for sure that you're the same person? Because sometimes we have to use different names and things for those different platforms. So they better know the minute that they land there that that's you. Same profile photo too. I think it's important as well for the same exact reason. And also, you need to have an updated image of yourself. And when I say updated, I'm thinking every 2 years you should have a new headshot, because people change and we change over 2 years. I mean, I've looked back at my photo. I'm like, geez, I don't look like that anymore. I got a few more wrinkles. And I know we don't love that, but it's important for people to know that they're looking at you and not a picture of you from high school or something like that. You also, again, want to use photos of yourself in social media posts, guys. And maybe a lot of you are doing that already with the selfies and things like that. I'm sorry, I keep, having this frog. All right, there I am again. But it's okay to do the selfies. I think you want to make sure too that you're having, other images in there that look a little bit more precise or polished or professional or that sort of thing. So, okay, so we're going to get down into some nitty gritty real quick here on the stories and themes. Okay, this is kind of fun. So when I actually work with my clients, I'm actually diving into stories. And when I say stories, I mean kind of like aspects of your life that you could sort of put into buckets, right? So to use Laura as an example, she's a book publisher. That's a story. She's also a poet. That's a story. A poet and a writer. I would put those in one bucket. She's a black belt. Okay, that's another bucket. There's other things that that we could talk about there, but basically we're looking at those things that we know that your ideal client would be interested in knowing about you. So some of them are professional related, some of them are like directly related to the service that you provide, but some of them are about you. And so you get to decide what you want your ideal client to know about you. So that's the cool part, because I think a lot of people who are very introverted perhaps maybe are like, I don't want to tell anybody about my life. That's okay. But you do need to connect. So you have to think about like, okay, just if I was walking up and becoming friends with somebody, what would I tell them about myself? So that can kind of be your barometer if you're super uncomfortable about, you don't have to open up your whole life, but you have to open up at least a little bit. So what parts of your life overlap with that ICA? Are there routines that you do every day that you think that they would not like to know about? any kind of rituals or habits, things that you do to be healthy, or to be a good business owner, or to be a good parent, or whatever it is. Those kinds of things are interesting to the people who you're trying to attract. What activities do you do? So are you like a rollerblader? Do you play, you know, I don't know, poker with your friends? What is it that you do that you know your ICA kind of does too, and they would want to know about? Um, the other side of this is kind of a little bit more about your business, I think, and it's what are your content themes that you use either in blogging, social media, that sort of thing. Those are areas that are ripe for stories and for images. So look for those things. It's like your content pillars. What is your why? We kind of talked about this before, but why did you start your business? There can be some great image ideas that would really resonate there. And then how do you do what you do? This is like where you get that behind the scenes thing. And I know a lot of people say, well, I work at a computer. That's what I do. And I'm like, no, walk through the process, because when you walk through the process of the actual steps, irrespective of the tool that you use, you actually might come up with some really like some ideas that could be very visual. So for example, I have a client who's a PR person, PR agent. She does, and actually she's in this picture right now. So what we did with her was we walked through the process, and she said, oh, well, one of the things I do is I sit down with my clients with a big calendar and I say, oh, what's the next holiday that's coming up? Let's see if we can figure out how we pitch you to the media for that holiday. So we said, great. We got a ginormous calendar. We had her sitting with a client, and she's walking through and showing her like the calendar, and they're deciding on a date. So that's what I mean by pulling out those visuals from the actual process. So hopefully that makes sense. Here's some examples to kind of root in what I was talking about, stories. So the one over here on the far left is the mom turned entrepreneur. That is that PR agent I just talked about. She started her business in her kids' playroom. So we talked a lot about what family meant to her, and she's structured her whole business around having a family and not, basically putting them first. And so and she also told me she loves cooking. So and cooking with the girls. And so we created this experience with her kids. It was real. I mean, they were cooking cannoli, no, stromboli, that's what it was. And cannoli would have been better. I don't know. Stromboli together. And we just had this cute little like flower fight that the girls didn't know was coming. And it just really created this fun image. And this is really super impressive to her ideal client, which is people who value family. And we know who the badass poet and book publisher is right there in the middle. She already showed you those images, so you kind of know. And on the far right, this is a very recent one that I did. This client is a realtor, and she is all about, connecting with, younger single women who are buying their house, the first time buyers, buying their house on their own. And her whole thing is that you can do this, ladies. So we created images around that story. All right. So take a breath, right? We covered a lot here. So how do you create images out of all of this? So I started talking about this, with the prompts and things. And I know that it might feel like a whole lot, but I think what you need to do is really look at those stories and think about, and this is kind of the process that I go through a lot with my clients, is thinking about if I'm going to create some of these images, what are the visuals? So in this case, you're seeing an image of this guy who is he was a scientist, and then he became a financial advisor. He created a whole company. But he still sort of has that scientific way or method of looking at things. And he wrote a book called The Transparency Wave. So we were looking for concepts around transparency. So you see where the concept thing comes out? So it was all about like, okay, let's look at your scientific background. He's like, oh, well, I did this. And I said, well, how about a Petri dish, right? So we have a Petri dish there, and having him look through it and then sort of seeing things transparent. So that's kind of what I mean around creating those images from all of that data that you got about your brand. Let me see if I can come up with some others as some examples here. Let's see. I have someone who is a virtual assistant, or she's not the virtual assistant, but she owns a virtual assistant company. But she says part of her process, and when she works through people or works with people, she helps them hit the ground running. So we started thinking about running themes. Was she the one running? Maybe it's just a matter of her holding up some running shoes, that sort of thing. So when you're creating images, you can start thinking about, the props that you use. You can start thinking about, locations that would make sense. Who should be in the images with you? Do you need images with clients or people like posing as clients so that you can kind of riff off each other and really sort of pretend like you're actually working with them? And then the other thing is, how do you take these images yourself? Well, right now it's obviously very hard, but if you can find someone who's a friend, a family member, that sort of thing, and you can kind of just get that concept ready, you could probably create like 5 images for social media in an afternoon just thinking through these concepts. I don't know that I'll have time to go through everything here because just checking the clock here, it seems like a lot. And also, I think I've kind of not gone through everything. Well, maybe I did. No, I guess I did. But I do want to let you guys know that a lot of this stuff, when you're looking through your website, your social media, that sort of thing, just let me know if you have questions that start coming up as you're doing these things, and you just want to shoot me an email and ask me a quick question. I'm totally happy to answer anything that you have, but obviously I'm ready to answer your questions today as well. So Laura, hopefully that was quick and dirty enough, but like deep enough. If you want me to go into any other specifics on some of these concepts, I'm happy to do that here too.
Yeah, super awesome. Do you all, I don't think you added your Facebook group in the comments.
Yeah, I'm not actually running that Facebook group anymore, but I can
Okay.
certainly put all of my, if you want me to go ahead and put my other information in there, all my other, like my Instagram and that sort of thing, I can do that.
Well, definitely whatever you want to add.
Sure.
Gals, what questions do you have? Feel free to unmute and ask them, or you could type them in the comments. This work is definitely a lot of the ideal client work, which you guys have heard me talk about like a million times, right? And so any clarity that you can get on that, and even just another layer of it today, really is great. So like if you're sitting there thinking about your situation, your ideal client, and you want to talk about that for a minute or whatever you have, feel free.
I think that Neelam has a question. She's raising her hand there.
Oh, great.
Yes.
Do you want to stop the screen share for a minute,
oh, yeah,
Melissa?
Sure. Yeah, I was like, what should I do here?
I'll be able to see everybody. All right.
There you go. Cool.
Thank you. That was really awesome.
Thanks.
After had a session with Laura a few weeks ago, my wheels have been like just all over the place, but I've come to my website and I was trying to see if I should start it again and all that, but I paused it. Redo it because I'm stuck between, but I'm leaning towards using my website name, which is called Moment Inspired, like the business name is LLC, or my own name, which is Neelam Singh. So I have both the domain names, but the more I'm trying to get more and more clear in my presence on social media, I'm leaning towards Neelam Singh, but I was wondering if what was the pros and cons of using your name versus
well thanks for asking that question. I actually went through this exact same problem a couple of years ago because I was like, well, what am I doing here? So, and I tried all kinds of things, like was I going to come up with an actual name for the like a name that was unique, or was I just going to use my own name? And I think the answer lies in what do you see yourself doing long term? Do you see yourself becoming more than your business? Are you going to have multiple things that you might be the head of, right? So you might actually have multiple businesses or multiple types of services. But really what you're going to want to do at some point, I'm just asking this, I don't know, but are you going to want to become someone who steps away, has a scaled business, more people working for you, that kind of thing? You're going to want to develop a personal brand around that. Then maybe your name makes more sense because you're actually going to want to develop that brand. for me, that's what I did. So I just stuck with my name. Now it is Melissa Henry. That's my married name, but I just go by Melissa Demple because people get confused. But essentially I just kept that name, Melissa Demple Photography. But I am developing a larger service. And when I do that, then it's going to be something, I actually have a URL for it. I haven't developed it yet. But that'll be its own thing. It'll be its own brand. It'll be its own business. But I'm going to develop my own personal brand because I know I need to in order to reach that larger audience. Does that help?
Yes, it does. So Moment Inspired used to be just a blog, and it's been instrumental in my journey to where I am today. But people work with me for me.
Yeah.
So, and I think I need to just pick one. So I think I'll go with Neelam Singh, and eventually maybe it'll be another website with another name, which will birth out of all this.
Yes.
And I'll just focus, because right now I'm Neelam Singh. It's my maiden last name, and it's easier
Yeah.
to stick with that. But the confusion is, if you go on my business page, it's Neelam Singh. It confuses, and on the URL, and it's Facebook / whatever, momentinspire.com or moment. Yes. And then if you go on Instagram, there's so many Neelam Singh. So I have to pick something. And so I put coach in front of that. I'm not very comfortable doing that, but I just want to keep my name. So I'm trying to get clear here. And I missed, because my son walked in and he said he wanted breakfast. So did you say that when you'll help with the branding, besides just the pictures and everything, when we do the exercise?
Yeah, I have an offer that's out now that is for people who want to get an understanding of what their brand looks like across, websites and social media. So if you're interested in learning more about that, just go ahead and book a call with me, and then we can talk in more detail and then figure out what works for you.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and I think, did I put that one in the chat?
I also think that, Neelam, you answered part of your own question by saying the words, the confusion.
Yeah, right.
So there's confusion.
Yes, when you have
that's the key, is like to not have confusion. So whether it be your photo is the same all the way across, even if you keep your name or whatever. And then I just want to add also, I think part of the answer to the question of name versus not your name, and Melissa said it already, it has to do with your big vision. So if you guys haven't really sat to think about, is there a bigger vision than what is occurring right this moment? And what exactly is that? And of course, some of that is hard to do because we're not exactly sure, or we're just growing it right now, or, but it does behoove you to kind of sit and journal about it, think about it, brainstorm with other people about it, all of that good stuff. Because the sooner you begin to brand it, the better.
Yes. And I think either way, even if you're going to decide to do a business name, not your own name on your URL, that's fine. But building your brand is still going to be important. So I don't think you absolutely have to have that URL as your name to build a brand. I still think it's important to build a personal brand.
Yes. I agree.
Susan.
Thank you.
Do you find it more useful if people use their photo or their logo, say they have a logo, across the different mediums like, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn?
Right. Well, I would say this, you need to have a profile photo of yourself. Right. So that shouldn't appear in your profile photo. Like your photo should appear in your profile photo. But like if you're going to have a banner across those things, so like on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter, there's a section for a banner space. I would use that banner space really well. I would really be dialed into exactly what you're trying to do for people in that banner space. And that part can include your logo. But get that emotion in there.
Your face should always be there like that.
Agreed. Yes. Don't use your logo as your profile photo.
Thank you.
Not if you're trying to build a personal brand.
Anybody else have a question or a situation in your own business you're just curious about, need some clarity on? Shelley.
I'm feeling a little bit like Neelam. I'm a little bit all over the place. So I have like a Facebook page with my own name, and then I have a business Facebook page with what I thought the name would be, and I'm not pictured on my business page. I'm only pictured on my personal page, but half the time I put my personal page when I apply to things. So I'm a little bit scattered. And I don't know how to unite the two, or if I should just make it all a business page.
Well, I don't really have an answer for you on whether you should unite it or just have a business page. I kind of feel like you should use both because there's different reasons for using your personal Facebook profile and your business one. But what I would say is that you do need to actually show yourself on your business page. So maybe it's a matter of, I don't know, putting some information up front, photos up front at the top in your banner. There is a space like on the left side, is that right? They've totally changed the platform now, and I'm like, I can't remember where things are anymore. But there's space on there and like above the fold where you can actually show up as you, and that's kind of what I would do. Even if you have a different business name for that Facebook page, that's okay. Just make sure you show up, and this problem you're trying to solve shows up.
Okay, great, thank you.
Oh, Lulu asks, how do you do that in Instagram for your biz page? Interesting question. Lulu, there's no banner on Instagram. There's just a profile photo. So I would use you in the profile photo, which you probably already are doing. This is where, like, Instagram's great for showing off you and what makes you special and unique. And so the way that you're going to do that is in a couple of ways. You can use stories to do that. And that's really great because it's only 24 hours. So if something's goofy and you don't like it, you either don't save it as a story or, it goes away in 24 hours. So no big deal. But I think, and that's a great place to start practicing and stuff like that. The other place is obviously just through your Instagram feed. So taking some of those concepts I talked about earlier and creating some concept images that go with your content. Awesome place to do that on Instagram. And that's really good too, because if you start using the hashtags really well, then you'll start, connecting with the right ideal client too. So that's obviously a way bigger discussion, but that's how I would use Instagram, and that is how I use it. I don't, I know there's no awesome splashy page for you there, but it's like Instagram is the awesome splashy page, sort of. You know what I mean? Does that help?
Susan.
Do you have any general thoughts about the power of these various platforms, preferences, what clients say, what you think?
Yeah, I do. I have an opinion about just about everything sometimes. Let me ask you this question, Susan. Who's your ideal client?
It's a little complicated, but my ideal client actually is, I'm a communications consulting firm.
Okay.
So my ideal client, it could be a nonprofit organization who's looking to hire for a temporary project. It could be a government agency, but it's anyone working on a project to promote gender equity, women's rights. I'm a specialized strategic communications firm.
All right. So you're telling me stuff that leads me down two paths. I feel like two platforms for you would make total sense here. First one would be LinkedIn.
Right.
You should be all over that, especially for government and nonprofit. Wow, they're all over the place there. Second would maybe be Twitter, because you are working for like causes, and that kind of stuff is really prevalent there. So I would really focus on those. And I always tell people, and this is the mistake that I made. So that's why I tell people, don't do what I did. What I did was like, oh, I'm going to be everywhere. And I started like really trying to be everywhere, and you can't freaking be everywhere. It's too hard. So pick whichever one you want to start with, like which one makes sense for you, and just go in on it like crazy, like just really, really hit it hard, and then really get to know it and understand the whole thing, and then add on the next one. And if you do that, you're going to have a lot more time in your day, and you're actually really going to be speaking to the right people, and you're not going to be like stressed out and have no headspace, if that makes sense. Is that helpful?
Very, and I love Twitter actually.
Good.
Do you have any thoughts about people? Do you have a boundary for people with their professional career, professional lives, their business, and promoting issues personal? Because mine really does meld. I'm a consulting firm with a mission, with a passion. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm good with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I get into Twitter and I can be political and I can be whatever. I'm good with that because my cause, women's equity, gender equity, is passionate. It's political.
Yes.
It can be. Do you have any problem with that when you hear me say that?
No, here's what I'm going to tell you. When people get pissed off at you and they call you names, then you're golden, man. You've reached exactly what you need to be, because you're not trying to attract everyone.
Right.
You're trying to repel the people who you don't want.
Yeah.
Or in your case, you're trying to help a cause, help
Yeah.
a mission. You have to be like that. You can't be like wishy-washy, blah blah blah, right?
Okay.
So if you try to be all things to all people, you have not branded yourself, and you
Right.
have not attracted the right people to you. So I see no problem with that. I will tell you one caveat: get a thick skin.
Yeah.
Do it. And we all should do that, really, but most of us aren't going to be as we're not going to be striking as too many nerves in people mostly, but some people will. And I've got a friend who actually just posted about that. She's having problems on LinkedIn. There's somebody actually posted a post about her, and all these people were saying nasty things on this post. And it's all because she was bringing up like concepts that they were uncomfortable with.
Right.
Right. And they were like mad at her. And
I
so I
would-
told her, I go, you just hit the big time, girl. Like, go with it.
The one thing I do find out in Twitter is fascinating. You will post something, a tweet, and they will alter it they'll interpret it and translate it for you and say that you said a certain thing that wasn't the point of it.
Mm-hmm.
That does happen. So I found myself having, correct people and say,
Mm-hmm.
here's what I was saying,
You know what? I'm going to send you an article that I wrote ages ago, but it is all about like, how do you get the mindset around, when people actually get pissed at you, and they say things about you. If you want me to do that, actually, I wonder if I can't find it right this minute,
Okay.
but
I'll
Susan,
be
if
in
you,
touch with you. I will contact you.
okay, sounds good. Yeah. Contact me and I'll send that to you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. I feel like Lulu had another question, or maybe I didn't answer her question. No? Okay, good. You good? Okay. Good. I saw you going like this at one point.
Anybody else? Now's your chance. Got time for maybe one more. Lisa?
Lisa.
I'm not sure if you are familiar with WordPress. I have a WordPress website, and I did make the switch recently, moving into 2020. I was Lisa Karasek, certified eating psychology coach, so the initials, and I switched everything in 2020 over to Lisa Karasek.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm promoting everything now as my website, Lisa Karasek, but when you actually click on it, it defaults to the LKCEPC.
Mm.
How much does that matter? And is there a way to default one or the other if it's possible? Thank you.
Is there a reason why you want to keep both?
Well, just until everything is transitioned out, because it's so fresh. I mean, I've handed out, how many business cards I have.
Oh, yeah.
So everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to phase everything out.
Mm-hmm,
So I want to
mm-hmm.
keep them both for at least a year, I'm assuming.
Okay. I did that too. So I had a website that was mdphotographs.com, and it was my newborn and maternity work. And I obviously didn't want anyone going to that. That was going to come for my branding. And I had that site up at the same time as my branding stuff, just for like an overlap period. And so now anyone that goes to mdphotographs.com it gets redirected to melissademple.com. I don't even care about it. Most people don't even think about it. Most people aren't even really looking at that thing when they're clicking on something, right? Like they put in a thing and it goes and they're like, cool, I'm on the site. They're not even really aware. So I don't think from that perspective, it makes that much difference. If you are able to then eventually get rid of it, it's easier, technically easier. So yeah, when you're ready to do that, that's fine. But I don't think from a branding perspective, anyone's going to care about that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anybody else? Last chance.
Last call. I hope everyone has awesome weekend plans, by the way.
Yeah. So does that mean that if you pick your own name, eventually if you were going to your vision becomes bigger, it's harder to go that path. So you have to have.
Well, what are you concerned about exactly?
For now, I'm just I'm thinking, should I be switching? Like, I'll give you a simple example. I was one of the writers in volume 2, and in that, somebody joined my group yesterday. And I said, introduce yourself. First, I was like, I don't know who she is. She's like, oh, I found this book, and and I'm enjoying all the chapters and everything, and which was awesome. And here I have everything, momentinspired.com, blah, 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 the 10 things that you can connect me with.
Yeah.
And not that it's the only book I'll write or the only chapter, but still, like, somebody comes to that book and then they click and they're like, it's gone. So do you want it to redirect? Like, they click Moment and they can go to neelamsingh.com. But so if you keep changing in life and you know, that's what I meant. Like, you're Neelam Singh for 10 years and then you want to become something else, and you've written those URLs, which then
Can I just say what I think is the overall goal for you, and then you tell me if I'm wrong?
Sure.
So I feel like the overall goal for you is that you want to be a writer. You want to be, you want to be this person who is the person, right? You're building a brand for you. That's nothing but good. Like, that's good. And I'll tell you, like, just as my own example. So I was telling you before, I'm building my own personal brand. I will have this like following and audience and all of that follows me.
Right.
But I'm also going to have a photography agency. That's my ultimate goal. That's what I'm calling it, but it's really more of a matchmaking service, and it's going to go global. I'm just putting this out there because this is going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So I have this is my idea, right? So it's not going to be Melissa Demple Photography anymore, right? It's going to be Brandtographers. That's my URL, guys. Look it up in a year. I'll bet it'll be out there. So that Laura's laughing at me. So that's what I was saying to you is, like, you can go wherever you want and you can create whatever you want, but you are always Neelam, aren't you?
Right. Yes.
I would just stick with that and just like embrace it. And like, this is me, and I have all of these amazing things to give to you and help you with. And then if I want to create something larger, that can be this thing. Neelam Singh owns blah, right? You own all this, but you are still you. And you're the one who people are buying from.
Yeah. So I'm getting, I've really, it has really made brought more clarity, as I was sharing, that it was confusing.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, okay, Moment Inspired is great, but there's no wellness in that. There's no yoga in there. There's nothing. It's just, that was a concept which has become, like, I've embraced to live in the present moment.
Like that. Did you see that, Neelam? It's the Neelam Singh Empire.
Thank you.
I love it.
Yeah.
So good.
So yes, okay, I will be in touch. Thank you.
Oh, sure. I'm so glad.
Yes, I will be.
Good.
So ladies, make sure you copy Melissa's info or save the chat if you want to do it that way. And
I clicked on it, so it opens in a website. So.
Great. Perfect.
Awesome.
And of course, you can contact her and find her on social and all the good things. And I'm connected with her. So if you ever need to get connected with her, but you can't remember how, let me know. Yes.
And sorry for not putting my social links in there, by the way, but the problem is that I don't have very many ports on my computer, and they're all used right now. So I have no keyboard. It's weird, I know, but I don't have a keyboard.
Oh, I think they'll find you.
Yeah.
And stay tuned, ladies. I've got a couple more of these kinds of interviews set up for you guys. We're going to have Kyle from Do Good Video talk to you guys about using video for your branding in your business. And I have, oh my goodness, is it Christina? What's Christina's last name?
Maduro,
Melissa?
but I think she goes by Garcia.
And she is a stylist, but wait till you meet her. She is not just any stylist. She comes at this from a very unique, awesome, healing kind of perspective. So can't wait to introduce you guys to her too. So Melissa, thank you so much for being here, sharing your info and your time with us.
Sure, anytime.
And I'll have this replay up for anyone who is asking you guys. I'll put it in all of the groups. I know there's a few ladies who wanted to watch after. So
yeah, that would be, thank you. Yeah, that would be awesome. And I will see.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Great
Melissa.
questions,
Thank you,
too.
Laura.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody. Have a great rest of your weekend.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.